Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Tom Morgan Drum Studio. Today, as we continue to move through the book, A Sequential Approach to Fundamental Snare Drum, we arrive at page 16 and 17. On page 16, we have an introduction to accents. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's very possible to overthink this. But I think it's helpful to at least kind of have an idea of mechanically what happens when you play an accent. But I think it's better to be able to just kind of play naturally and let it happen naturally. But we're going to talk a little bit about the mechanics of it. And if it's helpful, then that's great. If it doesn't help you, then don't worry about it. But an accent is nothing more than just playing a note louder than the notes surrounding it. So if I'm playing a series of notes like this and I want to play an accent, one that's going to be louder, then I'm going to do that. So if I play it like that. Now you notice that I've lifted my stick up higher to play the accent. And this goes to back to the idea that our volume or dynamic level is going to be controlled by our stick height. So if I raise my stick higher than the other notes I've been playing, I almost have to play it louder when it comes down because I have more velocity to cover more area to get the stick back down there, and it makes the note louder. So we want to be able to control our accents so we're able to play them when we want them, but not play them accidentally and keep them consistent. So the exercises there on the top of 16 are pretty simple. Number one, I'm just going to play with the right hand to start out. You could start with your left if you're left-handed. And I have a diagram there that shows an arrow. The accent falls on 3 in that measure, so the arrow is on the end of 2. So after I play the note on the end of 2, 1 and 2 and, I'm going to bring my stick up. And this is actually what's referred to down below there, and the different kinds of stroke types, is a number 3, a tap up. So I'm going to play a tap, and instead of leaving it at the same height, which I call a tap down, I'm going to bring it up. So it prepares me to play an accent on the next note on 3. So it looks like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's just that simple. And of course, you want to do it with your other hand, your weaker hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, when you're playing something that has multiple accents in it, you don't really want to have to think about that. That just becomes something that you do automatically, lifting the stick before you play the accent. So if you look at number two just is the same idea, but the accent's still on 3, but now I'm using alternating strokes. So that means that if I start with my right hand, the last time my right hand plays before the accent is on 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm going to have to lift after I play the second count, the third note. So it looks like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the reverse if I start with the left: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's all there is to it. So those different stroke types, A tap down is just when you play a tap and you're going to play another tap right after that, so your stick height returns to that same tap height. A stroke up, a stroke is when I use my full arm and wrist and everything to play louder. And you notice I'm lifting it right back up to the same height that I started because I'm going to play another stroke. Okay? Now, if I want to play a tap followed by a stroke, I'm going to play a tap and then raise my stick to play a stroke. Tap, stroke. And if I play a stroke that I want to follow by a tap, then I play a stroke down. Then I can play a tap. If I play a stroke up and then I'm supposed to play a tap after it, I'm in trouble because my stick is too high. So again, these are things that you don't want to have to think about. They're just become internalized. But I think it's good to think through them at least a little bit to get the mechanics of how they work. And we'll talk more about it as we go along. So as we go over to page 17 now, we have some accent studies. And they're just little exercises. And you can play these all with one hand, either hand, or alternating. And I suggest you do both ways. So for example, number 1, it's just the first 2 measures have the accent on 1, and then the second 2 measures have the accent on 1 and 3. So if I alternate, it's going to look like this. I'm going to start out with an accent. So I'm going to start with my hand up. And 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and, okay? And of course it would be the reverse of that if you started with the left. You could also do it with just one hand. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. And notice that now I lift right after I play the and of 4, where before, alternating, I was lifting I was lifting after it played 3 and 4, and I was lifting after it played 4. So I'm not going to take the time to play through all of these, but these are all just little exercises that you can use. Notice, I will point out one thing on number 3, and that is now we've got accents with both hands happening in the exercise. I'll play number 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 the same thing for number 4. It has accents with both hands in it. Okay? So spend some time practicing these. Again, they're not things that we're going to dwell on for a long period of time, but let's look at the buzz studies. We've already talked about the buzz, and just to quickly review, remember to play a buzz stroke, I'm going to take my grip, which I hope you have established now between the first joint of the index finger, the first joint of the middle finger, and the pad of the thumb, and I simply squeeze a little bit at that fulcrum that's created there, and I find just the right amount of pressure, and I get a buzz. Okay, so these buzz studies correspond to the accent studies. You'll find that the buzzes in the buzz studies are in the same place that the accents were in the accent studies. So when you play the buzz studies, the key thing to think about here is to try to make the buzz as long as you can make it, but don't let it have individual beats. We don't want them to sound like this. We don't want them to have individual beats. So I want to make them as long as I can. Try to connect to the next note. okay? And I'm not really accenting the buzz. I'm trying not to. I'm just squeezing a little bit, and that's what gives me that buzz. So again, if you practice these, you could do them all with one hand, like that, or like I did earlier, play it alternating. And then 3 and 4, just like above, you've got buzzes with each hand in the exercise. I like number 4 because it's kind of cool to play it, and once you get it fast, it kind of sounds kind of nifty. It sounds like this, number 4. Okay, so again, if you don't have to get it that fast. You spend a lot of time on it, but it's just a good way to keep practicing the buzz. Now we're buzzing eighth notes, and so we're working our way up to the goal, which is to eventually be able to play a smooth buzz roll like that. All right, and then we're going to look at the next page, which is called Metronome Fun. Metronome Fun number 1, and there's several pages that are interspersed through the book that give you an opportunity to practice with a metronome. Now, what is a metronome? Well, a metronome, I have an ancient one here. This one is electric. It's not as old as some. There's some that actually have a swinging arm like this. That before electricity, that's what they used. But this one I bought many, many, many years ago, and it still works. And I run it through my stereo system so I can make it as loud as I want it to be. Okay. So this gives you an exact tempo. That's 60 beats per minute, BPM, beats per minute. So that's the same speed as seconds on your wristwatch. Okay, so the idea here is you want to practice playing with the metronome and staying right with it. In fact, if you play with the metronome perfectly, you can't hear it because it's clicking at exactly the moment that you're playing. Some people call that burying the metronome, like you just play so perfectly with the metronome that you can't hear it. It's buried in the sound that you're making. Okay, now that takes a long time, a lot of practice. Some people find this very easy right from the beginning. Other people have to really work at it. So if it's hard for you at first, just realize that it is the same for a lot of people. So a good speed to start would be, I have listed here several different possibilities. If you want to go real slow, go clear down to 44. Ironically, playing really slow sometimes is harder because there's so much space between the clicks. So a good, place to start might be 50 or 60. I'm going to start it at 60. So if you look at the page here, page 18, I have put little marks over the notes that show you where the metronome click is going to fall. So we're just playing quarter notes in the first line. So I'm going to try to play my quarter notes exactly with the click. So sometimes you want to take a couple of seconds and just internalize that tempo before you start. And here we go. Ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? And counting out loud is a good idea. Okay? We'll jump down to line 3, which adds some eighth notes. So now I'm going to be playing in between the clicks. I got to make sure my eighth notes are perfectly even so that I don't get off from what the metronome's clicking. So here's number 3. 2, and ready, and go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, and as you go down the page, they get a little trickier. If you look at page or number 5, there's some more rests in there. Let's try number 5. I notice on this page there are 2 number 5s. I'm not sure why that is, but the first number 5 is the one we're going to do. 2, and ready, and go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, 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 and. Okay, and we'll do the second number 5, a little trickier. Now we have eighth notes grouped in groups of 2. So let's try that. 2, and ready, and go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, 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 and number 6, which is really number 7, but it's number 6 here in the book. Let's do the last line. 2, ready, go. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, so I call this metronome fun because I hope that it will be kind of fun for you to work on this. It really is kind of cool to know that you're playing metronomically perfect time with the machine. Now, none of us are able to always play time absolutely perfectly because we're human. But practicing a lot with a metronome is a great way to improve your time and to develop a sense of what it feels like to play at a perfectly even tempo. So we'll come back to this a lot as they pop up in the book. And I just really encourage you. You don't have to just practice the metronome fun exercises with the metronome. You can play any page with the metronome. And it's just a good way to practice. All right, thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and we're going to continue to move through the sequential approach to fundamental snare drum. And also, please subscribe to this channel and tell your friends about what we're doing, and like this video if you liked it, and watch for the next one where we're going to talk about eighth rests. All right, see you later. Bye-bye.